young people, whether we like it or not, are the future of our country. And the future belongs to them. And that's why I don't like it when people criticize young people. Oh, no, they're not doing this. They're not doing that. La, 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 la. I don't know if you remember if you're young, but I remember being quite passionate about the things that I believed in and really just needing someone to hold my hand and guide me in the right direction and to really just take the time to have the necessary conversations and hear me out. And I think that's how, we learn and grow. And we don't want to look down on young people because they're young, because then it forces them to look down on themselves. But we want to see the potential that lies in them. And I think certainly one of the ways that we can do them is to invest in the way that they view themselves, the value that they place on themselves, and also just that financial knowledge, independence and wisdom is something that we can certainly do our part in encouraging. And so I'm pleased today to be chatting to financial advisor Sis Phumelela about this very, very subject. How are you doing, Sis Phume?
Hi, Bonolo. I would also like to greet your listeners.
Thank you so much for giving us your time, as always. Much appreciated. And I'm certainly looking forward to the topic today. I don't think that we've ever spoken so very specifically about youth and money, and so I'm looking forward to that. Now, I wasn't particularly taught about money, at least not explicitly as a person. My mother's an accountant by profession, so very frugal, just in the way that she spends money. But I can't say that there was a concerted effort necessarily to say, sit down, we are talking about this. It's just you're observing around you, right? About what's happening and how money is treated and related to, and that's how you learn. But as a young person, what are some of those foundational money decisions that I need to know if I've never been taught about money at home?
Yes, Bonolo, and that makes many of us, even those of us that are older now, generally as parents, some of us don't really focus on trying to give knowledge and information to our children about money. That seems to be a general, problem. And unfortunately, we're also not taught specifically about money at school.
Yes.
Not personal finances, because this is not pure accounting.
Yes.
So if you ask me, then in the absence of personal finance education, what are the basics or foundations that I wish every young person out there would know about? The first thing is debt. It's been shown by various surveys that have been done that young people are very brave and they go into debt very easily.
Sure.
So, I want to caution young people that they must not take debt lightly. You must go into debt because you need to get into debt. And that debt must serve you.
Yes.
In the end. Especially because we don't even understand interest rates. It's very sad to see, somebody paying 30-something% for, on a personal loan or some other kind of expensive debt because they are not even aware of it. So don't take debt lightly. I think young people get into debt very, very easily. And unfortunately, they also do so buying things that are not really necessary. And I understand. I fully understand, when you're young and you've been working hard at school and at varsity and now you have a job.
Yeah.
The temptation to want to buy that, expensive car of your dreams that you've always dreamt about is very high. And, these days it's also so easy. I mean, I still see people saying buy now and you only have to worry about the first installment in 3-4 months' time.
Yes.
So, young people, I wish that they would think, twice before getting into expensive debt. Because the car depreciates in value over time is honestly not an asset. So, I also want to caution them, if you need a car, be sensible with your first car, especially because I'm not so sure if people are aware that with your first car, or the younger you are rather, the higher your insurance costs.
Yes, that's true.
You've got to be very sensible about the car that you're driving, and make sure it's well within your means, because things like residual or balloon payment, they make it seem so cheap, and it's not. You only realize 6 years down the line when the balloon payment is due that, oh dear, I don't have the money. So that is one of the things that I also want them to be aware of. And then maybe also, saving for a rainy day from your very first paycheck.
Yeah.
Don't spend every cent that you earn. Put away some of it for a rainy day, because that day will come. It does come for all of us. So don't spend every cent, because if you have zero savings and investments, unfortunately, when an emergency or a crisis happens, you are going to go into very expensive short-term unsecured debt. And before you know it, you're drowning and you're finding it hard to get out. So I think those are the three most important that I wish every young person would at least, empower themselves with.
Thank you so much. That's a really, really good place to start. Now, I heard something. I was chatting to a medical student? I can't quite remember how the information came through, but I distinctly remember the conversation going something like, yes, while we're still studying medicine in varsity, we get approached by various banks offering us credit cards. Right? Sometimes it can be all for 5 of the major banks knocking on the doors, because the assumption is you're going to be a doctor, you're going to earn lots of money, and that's the thinking. And so the thinking is, hey, why not? I'm going to be able to pay this back anyway. I don't have a dog, a cat, a house. I should be fine, And it would seem like it'd be tough to go through life without a credit card, because I remember wanting to buy my first car, having saved enough money for 10% deposit from working, and being rejected because they said I didn't have a credit score, because I didn't have any debt. You would think it would work for me, but it actually worked against me. So if somebody feels the need, if it seems like a necessity, right, something that one can't do without, how then can I discipline myself to use a credit card wisely and only when necessary?
Yes, Bonolo. You've touched on a very important point that affects, young people when they are starting out. When banks and, you even want to buy to get a cell phone contract, and you're told that you are not creditworthy. This is the most silly thing that I've ever come across. And unfortunately, that is how rules are right now. And I hope that, out of this COVID-19 and everything that is happening, people losing jobs, and young people still facing high unemployment levels, that it is going to wake us up to stop lying. This is just a lie. That you must have debt to be able to buy a cell phone. You must have debt to be able to buy a car. I honestly feel that it's just one of the ways to make sure that people get hooked into debt. Debt is addictive. It can even be more addictive than alcohol and tobacco. And they know that if they introduce you to debt at a young age, the chances are you might never be able to get out.
Sure.
One day when you go on pension, you will still be having high credit card debt, high personal loan debt, and high car finance debt, and you might end up, using your pension savings to pay off that debt. With people losing jobs right now, many are sitting with this expensive unsecured debt because they are told you can't buy a car, you can't have this if you don't have debt. But with that said, given where, the things are right now, for me, when it comes to credit cards, I have basic rules for, or tips when it comes to credit card management. One, keep your limits very low. Be the one that says, I want my limit to be 2,000 rand. Don't just take, if they decide to give you, 30,000 rand, whatever the amount is, don't fall into that trap. You dictate what the limit on that card is going to be. That is number one. Number two, when you buy on straight. Do not buy on budget. They will always ask you when, you take out your credit card,
yes,
straight or budget.
Yes.
Go for straight as far as possible. And know how your credit card works. Know what your payment date is. And this is another sad thing. Sometimes, and oftentimes, you find that the payment date for this credit card is right in the middle of the month, when most people get paid around the 25th or the end of the month. So if you have a credit card or you're planning to get a credit card, inform your bank that I want my payment date for my credit card to be the 26th of the month, if you get paid on the 25th, as an example, so that you pay for that timely. Otherwise, you attract late payment fees. And also know your statement date. Your statement date is the date when they print your statement.
Yes.
So if your statement is printed on the 18th of each month, it is in your best interest to buy on the 19th or the 20th, soon after your statement has just been printed. Because if you do that, then you stand a chance of getting the maximum number of interest-free days spending on your credit card.
Interesting.
So there's quite a few things that we need to understand about our credit cards, which unfortunately people just get given credit cards without enough, explanation of how this card works. And last but not least, unless you are super disciplined, leave your card at home under your mattress so that you don't, it's so easy. Everyone accepts a credit card. So it's so easy to just go and spend on it.
Yeah.
Because, the money is there and it doesn't feel like you're spending. And, use it really when you need to. And there are times when you really know that I have no money, or this is something that I must honestly buy. So use a credit card at that point. But if it's always in your handbag, chances are, you will find yourself, just using it and using it and using it. So, yeah, those are just some of the few tips that I hope will help young people out there.
There's something that you touched on. I don't want to assume that the young people know what that's about. But you said when you go into a store and they ask you for the option between straight and budget, always go for straight. Why?
When you say budget, the next question will be 6 months or 12 months.
Yes.
Now, I will make a simple example. Let's say you're buying something that costs 12,000 rand, and you then say budget. It basically means that they will divide that 12,000 rand, and if you opt for 12 months, it means that they will divide the 12,000 rand, and you are going to pay it over the next 12 months. And it therefore means that, you are going to attract interest on that purchase at whatever interest rate, debit interest rates, you have been given on your credit card. Now, sometimes you find people buying food and they are using a credit card, to buy the food. Ideally, you should not, be paying for that groceries over the next 12 months, as an example. And I think sometimes people say budget because, it sounds like there's some savings to it. I don't think people fully understand what they are doing, so just understand that that amount is going to be divided by the number of months, which is usually 6 months or 12 months, and of course, the longer, period, you are going to pay that interest rate, and you are going to pay it over that period of time.
Yeah.
And if you're buying a pair of shoes, do you really want to pay it for over the next 12 months? If you're buying food, where will that food be in 12 months?
Sure.
So that's why I think, unless really you're buying a high-ticket item, and you cannot afford to pay it now in full. And this is where, again, you need to then start comparing the interest rate on your credit card vis-a-vis whatever, the shop will have given you. And I'm glad to see that more and more shops are now accepting lay-bys, which come at zero interest, instead of you just swiping your card and having to pay for that item, because you're no longer paying the 12,000 rand. You're now paying 12,000 plus interest.
I hear you. We're in conversation with financial advisor Phumelelo Nduma today, talking youth and money. If you have a question or comment, by all means, 37871 at the cost of R1.50 per SMS. Alternatively, you can WhatsApp or Telegram us on 082-657-2729 or give us a ring on 012-334-1322. Now, we know the black tax is a real thing, and for a young person who's perhaps just started working, and they are trying to navigate those waters, how can they determine what percentage of their income they should be contributing towards the survival of their families?
This is really a tough one, Bonolo. This is a tough one. And I'm not even sure if I'm able to provide a percentage rather than to say
guidelines.
Yeah. Maybe try and assist your family with needs as opposed to wants.
Okay.
And for me, needs would be like food. And if you have younger siblings that still need to be assisted with, school and varsity expenses and all of that. That for me will fall under a need. Yeah. And one principle that, and I've seen, we didn't have this name black tax when I was at Varsity Bonolo.
Yes.
But I know people and families that are thriving today because, the older siblings, understanding the family situation, took it upon themselves that as soon as they finished their studies, and these were like teachers and nurses, they will then assist the younger siblings. And today you're sitting with everyone at home being a professional because of that sacrifice.
Sure.
But when you look at where the sacrifice was, it was in actually educating the younger siblings.
Yes.
And, that is why for me, when it comes to basics like food and assisting your younger siblings with education, by all means. But unfortunately these days, and this is the reality, some people, will even demand cell phones and laptops and iPads.
Yes.
And, honestly, I think, it's a difficult one. So if you are in that situation where you finding that your family is looking up to you, and also maybe empower yourself with knowledge and assist them to be able to help themselves wherever possible, rather than everyone looking up to you. And there's something that we do in our office, as a financial services provider, where we're beginning to look at intergenerational financial planning, because you might know about financial planning, but your parents might not know about it. Your siblings might not know about it. And depending on your age, even your children might not know about it. And, one weak person financially can drag all of you down. So, once we have the necessary knowledge, share it, across generations, so that, we hopefully as families, we begin to pull each other up financially. And this black tax at some point, hopefully, it will honestly come to an end. It can't always be there.
All righty. Sis Pumela, I know you touched on it a little bit at the beginning of the conversation, but and I suppose it can be touched on from a different angle. But what decisions that seem irrelevant now because you're young, when it comes to managing of one's money, that will have a huge impact on my life later on?
Yeah, the one, and I'm also guilty of this. It's time I own up. It took me a very long time to understand why I needed to worry about retirement. Early on, in my career, one financial advisor after the next will come and speak to me about retirement, and I'll be thinking, oh goodness me, I have so many needs in the here and now. What on earth are you going on about?
I hear you. Yeah.
And now here I am. And I'm thinking, wow, I wish I knew half, under half what I know now, especially about retirement savings. Reality is in our country, Bonolo, only 6% of people can afford to retire financially comfortable.
Did you say 6%?
6%.
Oh my goodness.
It's rough. It is rough, and at least what I find often is that those people that have been in one job for most of their life, and they've had, pension benefits from day one, and these are generally your public servants, your teachers, your nurses and others. At least they are much better. But for everyone else, Bonolo, people change jobs and they cash their pensions. And when you're young, you think, oh, I'm only 24. Why? Why is she even bothering me about retirement?
Yeah.
It's because there is something called compound growth in finance, and that is growth over growth. And the younger you are, the longer the time you have before you reach retirement age. You can even start with a small amount. You will be much better off than trying to play catch up later on in your life. And sometimes there is not even scope for catching up because people wake up when they're in their 50s.
Sure. And
retirement is around the corner and they realize that they don't have enough. And there's not enough time, for their money to grow, and there's not even enough to contribute towards, retirement savings and all of that. So this is one area that I'm very passionate about because for me, when it comes to saving for retirement, it is honestly about when you start. And these days, you can start from as little as 200 rand. That 200 rand is, you spend more in a hair salon.
It's true.
So it will really be money spent well. And this is also linked to black tax when you think about it. Because, it's saddens me to see this day and age when I still see young people who don't get this. Because I look at them and I say, do you realize that the very same pain and complaining that you're doing now about your parents and so forth, your children will be complaining about you unless you start saving now for retirement.
That is so true.
So, the earlier you start, the better, even though you may not fully appreciate, why you need to be starting early. The second thing that, again, young people don't appreciate, is life cover. Because when you are young and you're starting off and you think, it feels like you'll never die, you live forever.
Yeah.
But then again, what they need to understand, young people need to understand, is that the younger you are, generally the healthier you are as well.
Yes.
And because you have a long life expectancy, the cheaper your life cover premiums will be.
Makes sense.
So many of them, because I'm quite insistent, and I guess our office is lucky because we do a lot of talks and workshops in universities and for learners and all of that. So they they have the opportunity to hear me speak for 3 hours, upwards of 3 hours, so they understand the principle. And they're often surprised when we give them a quote, and they might, if something happens to them, the family could get 1 million, and yet they need to pay 200 rand. And they're honestly surprised. They didn't expect that. They thought they might have to pay 800 rand or so because of the million rand. It doesn't work like that. Your health, your lifestyle, whether you smoke or not, and your level of income, all of those things, they inform how much your life cover will be. And I guess with COVID-19, yes, the elderly ones are at higher risk, but all of us are at risk. So you don't want to be without life cover because you seem too young, you don't need it, especially when you have, a child or children. Yes, and the clean credit record. Please, let's keep our credit record clean as young people.
Yeah.
Because unknown to us, you might not even be able to get a job if your credit record is not clean. So let's make sure that, we try and keep our credit records clean. If you take on debt, make sure that you pay towards that debt.
All righty. Thank you so much. These are really, 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 really sound advice there. Do you have your contact details, or should I do you the honors?
Please do me the honors. Please put that as a question, as a standard question.
As a standard question.
I'm always rushing through, scribbling a few things, and my phone number is the last thing,
That's
on my
fine.
mind when I'm preparing for this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, though. I don't think there's a single young person who can say that they haven't learned anything today, and you've given us so much to ponder on, and certainly parents can share this information with their young ones as well. Much appreciated. Have an awesome rest of the week. May the good Lord bless you.
Thank you so much, Bonolo.
Okay. Bye. That was financial advisor Phumelelo Nduma of Tutuka SA. If you want to get in touch with them, their WhatsApp line is 064-513-1021. You can drop them a mail on info@tutuka-sa.co.za. They're also on Facebook, Young People, Tutuka, THUTHUKA-SA, and the website www.tutuka-sa.co.za.